She came home wearing someone else's scent. I make a living out of catching what most people miss. A drift of citrus where there shouldn't be any, the thin metallic hum of rain in a hotel lobby, the way human skin edits a perfume until it becomes a private letter. I'm a perfumer. Some clients call me a nose, which I tolerate. I prefer reader. Bottles hold paragraphs, rooms hold chapters, and bodies are the publisher that decides what gets printed. My wife, Eva, is a brand strategist who talks in constellations, vision, runway, leverage words that ask for a wider sky. When we met, she came to my studio to consult for a boutique label that wanted to bottle urban intimacy. I offered her a blotter. She offered me the way her laugh tilted when she liked something. We built a life on that. She made the world notice. I made the world remember. Our apartment sits above a deli that never sleeps and a laundromat that never entirely wakes. At night, the neighborhood is a small orchestra, steam vents, distant sirens, shopping carts with opinions. It's the kind of noise that turns private if you listen with enough patience. We lived easily inside that sound for a long time. Then work became a room we visited instead of a place we shared. She had late meetings, early flights. I had macerations that couldn't be rushed and formulas that liked to go wrong at 2 a.m. We kissed at doorways, texted hearts, and taught our calendar to perform affection. The new commission arrived the way opportunities do when they're about to ask a price, through a friend, with a deadline. The Oriole, a boutique hotel opening in a century-old bank building, wanted a signature scent. Nothing was ever going to smell like money again, they said. They wanted something honest and warm that would make people book the room without knowing why. I brought on a consultant I'd admired for years, Maya, an independent evaluator who trains noses the way a good coach trains ears. She's not from the industry, which means she still trusts her mouth when she describes what she smells. "This reads like a peach that never apologized," she'll say, or "the dry down feels like someone's good t-shirt." She's 35 like me. She lives alone. When she laughs, it sounds like she just recognized herself in a photograph. We met 3 afternoons a week in my studio, which used to be a dentist's office and still has a view that encourages confession. We worked at the bench, glass everywhere, atomizers lined up like well-behaved arguments. I showed her the base I'd built, golden and unthreatening, a sapy amber with a little hay in the corner. "Comforting," she said, "but a hotel doesn't want to tuck you in. It wants to make you think you chose to stay awake." So we pushed. I added a cedar that had spent time in the ocean, a Dalmatian of salt. She asked for the thin, sweet squeak of elevator oil, the clean steel smell you only notice when the elevator is empty and you're rehearsing the thing you should have said. I showed her a lemon I'd tinctured myself, not furniture polish but the small, complicated soul inside a rind. She put it on her wrist and closed her eyes. "Pulse points," she said, even though we both knew I knew. "Everything says the truth there first." I dabbed mine, too. We leaned toward each other in that soft space between testing and talking, breathing what we'd made while pretending it was about the formula only. Her hair smelled like the inside of a paperback left open on a windowsill. When our shoulders brushed, it felt like an ingredient discovering it had a second job. Nothing happened. Something happened. YouTube would have approved. No rushing. No hands where they didn't belong. No choreography to hide the feeling we weren't ready to look at. At home, Eva arrived late with the heat still in her cheeks. She toed off her shoes the way you do when the night is holding onto your ankles. The apartment changed temperature around her. It always had. I moved to kiss her and found not her perfume, the bright iris I'd made for her on our first anniversary, but a different architecture. If I'd been anyone else, it would have read as generic clean, that noiseless musk popular with people who don't want their scent to argue. But under it was something less shy. A faint, expensive sandalwood with a whisper of ISO E-Super, the kind that hides until skin gets warm and then remembers its lines. I pulled back an inch, not dramatic, just listening. "New sample?" I asked, casual as a countertop. "Focus group," she said, brushing my cheek with her mouth. "They sent me home with too many." I nodded. She walked to the kitchen to drink water directly from the bottle. "The too many didn't land right. I know the good houses. I know the bad ones." This smelled like one man's idea of being unobtrusive, a cologne meant to say, "Look how easy I am to agree with." My nose filed the moment. My chest did the math. Cheating doesn't arrive as fireworks. It arrives as small, reasonable instructions. Don't ask tonight, she's tired. Don't look at the phone, you promised. Don't be paranoid, smell is a memory bully. So I didn't ask and I didn't look, and I told myself the label on my fear was the wrong one. The next afternoon, Maya and I stood over the bench arranging top notes like windows. I added a thin thread of ginger, nothing cheeky, just enough to make the lemon feel brave, and a suggestion of fig leaf to say this room has plants that someone remembers to water. We sprayed the air and listened with our faces. "Want the truth?" she asked. "I make a living on nothing else." "You smell preoccupied," she said, smiling so I wouldn't feel scolded. "Your shoulder is trying to talk me out of whatever's on your mind." I told her, not everything, enough, about the notyrus, the uninvited sandalwood that did the shy act until skin told it to show up. I didn't say Julian or Daniel or any other name I could have borrowed for the man the world always seems designed to keep comfortable. I said someone. I said a scent that isn't mine. Maya listened the way a metronome does when it believes in rubato. "You don't have to be right yet," she said. "You just have to be honest with yourself." The Orioles' general manager stopped by to sniff drafts and talk about the opening. He had the relieved, slightly frightened look of a person who has watched $1 million chandelier get hung by a man who swore gently the entire time. "We want guests to tie this smell to the feeling you get when a stranger's kind to you in an elevator," he said. "Not flirting, just the idea that everyone's a little better in this building." "You'll get it," I said, and Maya nodded. When he left, she touched my wrist where I'd tested the fourth version. "You already have it," she said, and it wasn't just about the hotel. Evidence is usually boring when it's the truth. 2 nights later, Eva texted that she'd be home late with a heart that felt like a substitute teacher. I lay awake listening to the deli downstairs teach sandwiches to sing. At 1 a.m. the key turned. At 1:02 the living room inhaled a lungful of that friendly sandalwood, and the faint, unmistakable plastic of a hotel key card kept too close to a warm body. Not the Oriole. Theirs were metal, heavy, vintage swagger. Somewhere else. Somewhere practiced. She showered. Soap told the room a useless story. We didn't fight the next day. We did the laundry. She pressed a blouse. I wrote scent descriptions that made sense. The human trick is so simple. If you act like the scene is normal, it becomes normal until the moment it doesn't. I built a test. Not a trap, an invitation to a correct ending. The Orioles' soft opening was 3 days before launch, a donor night dressed like a secret party. We'd installed micro diffusers in the lobby vents. The scent would arrive like good news. I asked that during the first toast the diffusers pull from a second reservoir, a variation on our formula that I'd built only once for myself. I changed none of the headline notes. I changed the story around them. I added the particular, faint soap of a boutique gym where the towels smell like money trying to become virtue. I added the elevator oil, just a breath heavier, and a precise hallway cleaner lemon, not mine. I added the sandalwood that hides until you touch it, then swears it was beside you all along. It was an exact ghost of what had followed my wife into our apartment at 1 a.m., and because I'm petty in elegant ways, I anchored the whole thing with a drop of the peppery, Vetiver the scent company attached to a man I'd never meet, meant for rooms with more marble than doubt. I dressed without theater. Blue suit, white shirt, no tie. Eva wore a dress the color of near black cherries. We held hands in the car, a choreography our fingers remembered even if our mouths didn't. I told myself the night was about the hotel, that I would do nothing to humiliate anyone. I told myself I wanted the echo to be honest, and then I would leave the room. The oriole looked expensive enough to read as forgiveness. The old vault doors gleamed. The staff glided. The lobby sat there like a promise nobody wanted to ruin by asking questions. The general manager gave his speech. I stood off to the side with Maya, who wore a suit the exact soft gray of a cloud that knows where to rain. She moved closer as the diffusers hummed. The scent rose. People noticed without knowing they were noticing. Shoulders dropped. Laughter turned from performative to personal, and across the room, Eva's posture did a private flinch. The human body is a gorgeous liar until scent tells it what it already knows. Her eyes tracked the air like she was trying to follow a bird. She looked, not at me, at the entrance to the side hallway, where a man was arriving with the particular confidence of someone who believes he never sneaks. I recognized him from a press piece about venture capitalists who collect restaurants the way other men collect knives. He wore a cologne that behaved like good manners. He wore my marriage like a coat checked under someone else's name. Maya's fingers found my hand and squeezed once. No drama, no stage whisper, just pressure and the message inside it, I'm here, you are too. I didn't interrupt. I didn't cross the lobby and burn anything down. I let the diffusers fade back into our original formula. I let warmth return. I excused myself from Maya's side, touched Eva's elbow lightly, asked if she wanted air. Outside, the city remembered it had stars. We stood under an awning like two actors waiting to be told the next blocking. I don't want to fight, I said. I don't want to lie, she answered, and the smallest relief crossed her face, like a muscle that had been bracing for weeks finally deciding to sit. I didn't mean for it to become a thing. It became one, I said gently. Do you love him? I love the woman I am next to him, she said. That's not the same, I know. She looked at me fully. Do you love me? I love you, I said. I don't love this. I gestured toward the hotel, the road, the part of the night that insists on acting like the day isn't going to arrive. We can decide to keep pretending, or we can tailor this into something that fits without tearing. She laughed, tired, grateful. You and your analogies. I don't know how else to talk when it matters. We organized the aftermath quietly like two people who understand inventory. She'd stay with a friend for a while. We'd see a lawyer who wasn't either of ours. We hugged, careful and real. We went back inside and did not stand together. Maya found me by a column dressed in fern. She didn't ask. She simply moved into my space as if her body knew where mine had left room for it. We stood very close in the corner of a public lobby while behaving in a way a camera would applaud. No kissing, no hands map-making under clothes, nothing to frighten a sponsor. And still, intimate. She reached for my wrist, turned it palm up and pressed her mouth to the skin just below my thumb, where you wear a watch when you don't need one. It was not showy. It was not loud. It was a temperature I had been missing. Breathe, she said, against my pulse. I did. The world folded its wings a little. Later, when the last guest left and the night staff learned which switches mattered, I walked the lobby with the manager to sign off on the scent. It held. It knew how to welcome without pretending to be anyone it was. When I returned to the bench the next morning, The studio felt different not because I'd moved anything, but because I'd admitted something. I put on coffee. Maya arrived in a sweater that made kindness look obvious. We worked. We didn't rush toward anything we couldn't keep. We stood near it and let it tell us if it wanted to stay. 2 weeks later, we went to a farmer's market together without calling it a date. She smelled all the peaches like a woman interviewing applicants for the role of summer. She pressed her shoulder against mine as we waited for eggs. When we walked home, we missed 2 green lights because the conversation liked being the long way. In my studio, she leaned on the bench while I macerated a handful of basil in grain alcohol. Not the basil you taste, the basil you get when you put your face in a sun-warm plant and forget you were supposed to be dignified. I lifted the beaker for her to smell. She closed her eyes and smiled. "This," she said, "is how choosing feels." We kissed then, finally, a soft press that taught our mouths not to hurry. Her hands found the back of my neck. Mine learned the slope where a sweater becomes a shoulder. There was no choreography to hide, no witnesses to impress, no scene to perform. Just 2 adults and a room that had earned the right to keep our secret until we were ready to make it public. Smell is memory's most shameless accomplice. For weeks I found Eva's old iris in forgotten scarves, and it made my chest warm and hurt and glad all at once. I put those away carefully, not erased, just shelved where they could be part of the story without running it. The apartment above the deli still sang at night. Sometimes when the neighborhood exhaled, I told it the truth out loud. We tried. We didn't. We are okay. The Oriole sent a thank you basket with a card that used 3 adjectives where one would have done. I took Maya there for dinner months later. No ghosts in the lobby now, just the comfortable hum of a place that knows it got something right. She wore a navy dress and an expression that made my hands want to introduce themselves all over again. We walked past guests who would never know anything except that the air felt like permission. She reached for my fingers, laced them with hers, and pressed our joined hands to her sternum, a small heartbeat above a larger one. "Pulse points," she said, smiling up at me. "Tell the truth first." "Then let's be very honest," I said. We were. We are. And the bottles on my shelf keep giving up paragraphs, and the rooms keep writing me letters. And when someone new steps into the studio with a hope they haven't named yet, I pass them a blotter and ask what they've come here to remember.